Around through the end of the week, we're on your side with when we could see the most coverage and if we can possibly see some relief as we head into a new week.
Plus, with those rising temperatures, we talk about how high those feels-like temperatures could get and how the warm conditions in place have been impacting our summer nights.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And thank you for staying with us for Weather Extra. Lauren, it's just, we were talking, we're tracking storms past several weeks, higher rain chances, and then all of a sudden, wow, this looks like summer in Alabama.
It
right?
really does.
Yeah.
You have those moments in spring where you still get those fronts coming through to cool you off, but those are looking few and far between now.
Yeah, that's right. And a week from Friday, summer officially arrives. We reach the summer solstice. So this is what's to be expected this time of the year. We're going to have the heat, the humidity, and as we move ahead, as you make those plans, I know a lot of events coming up this weekend, it's going to be scattered storms that we're mostly talking about. As we go to the next big thing here, you can see those rain chances rather hit or miss. Some storms still could be severe. We can have some strong gusty winds, some large hail, some intense lightning. So events for Saturday, just know that if we have a storm, it won't last all day. It'll pop up, cool things off, and then it will probably dissipate or move on. Now, some rain might last a little bit longer in some areas, but do plan for the possibility of some storm delays. Just have that backup plan in your pocket because we will have some development. The heat, the humidity, that is really starting to kick in, but that is the next big thing that we're tracking in your First Alert weather. So right now, most areas rain-free across the state. Temperatures are in the 80s, and comparing to past Junes, it's certainly been a lot hotter this time of the year. So right now we have temperatures in the 80s. It's mostly the humidity that makes it feel a lot hotter. But if we zoom in on radar, I want to show you there is a little bit of rain out there. I notice right here we're going right into Demopolis, Alabama, right there on the banks of the Warrior and Tombigbee River. You can see we do have one little downpour, so a first alert in case there is a little bit of lightning. There was a storm that popped up. It was moving towards Auburn, and it just fell apart. But what's kind of cool with this, you look at the radar coverage out of Maxwell Air Force Base, you can see around Valley, Alabama, see this little line right there? This is where all the rain-cooled air is located. So it just kind of set up a little boundary there, a little gust front and outflow that we can see there on the radar. We'll see that a lot this time of the year, but they're kind of like mini fronts, and on some days that can actually set off new storm development. So we'll keep an eye on the radar. Most of us, though, will stay dry tonight, but it's the heat, the humidity, heat index 95+. Scattered storms more likely over the coming days. Tomorrow, actually, the coverage is very limited. Still looks like scattered development. Lauren noted this. We're keeping those rain chances around 40%, and some storms, again, still may be severe over the next several days. But you can see those rain chances through Father's Day weekend, and we got to watch it out there for those events. Peach Fest, Hueytown Festival happening for this weekend for that chance of scattered thunderstorms. But right now, what we want to talk about are the overnight low temperatures, because we are getting into the time of year. We had some mornings in the 50s, but now the lows around 70. We're kind of locked in right there at the near average. The average is 68 degrees, so we're not far off from average. And also the humidity, just looking at some of the very long-range data, and it's global data, but looking ahead towards the end of the month, I mean, it looks like the muggy air is certainly here to stay, the higher dew points. So, Lauren, we've got the humidity. That's the big thing this time of the year, really driving up those feels-like temperatures, and it looks like it's here to stay.
Yeah, it's here to stay, Wes. And honestly, it just feels so humid outside, and that what really is making those warm temperatures overnight feel all that much worse. So we can actually look at trends here over the past 50 years and see how we have been gaining more warm summer nights across central Alabama. On average, in the Birmingham area, the temperatures overnight have risen about 4.4 degrees on average. So if you think the average low temperature this time of the year is in the upper 60s, sometimes getting into the low 70s. Now, back in the 1970s, it was more mid-upper 60s. So you can see how that has changed in the Birmingham area over the past 50 years. And one thing, as Wes was mentioning, that kind of doesn't work in our favor here in central Alabama is we're near the Atlantic Ocean and we are certainly near the Gulf. So those two very humid bodies of water, all of that source of moisture, can can really make it feel even worse in the summer. And you can really see here that over the past couple of decades, since the 2010s, we have really seen on average many more nights that have had above average temperatures in the Birmingham area. So just a marked difference from back in the 1970s to now. And you can see too as well, especially areas along the Gulf Coast, they have been experiencing more warm summer nights over the past 50 years. So it's certainly something we want to watch as we go forward in time the next couple of decades and do what we can to try to mitigate that, because if you're not cooling down overnight, then that's putting more heat stress on your body. We know, goodness knows, it gets hot and humid in the afternoons here in Alabama, but if you're not cooling down at night, that doesn't allow your body time to recover from that brutal Alabama summer heat. So with most of you likely getting ready to spend more time outdoors, with it being the summertime, the heat and humidity can potentially lead to not just some hot summer nights, but also some itchy and painful skin issues. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on how to prevent 5 common summer skin problems.
The sun, the sweat, the itchy, oily, or dry skin. Summertime can wreak havoc on our bodies.
It's very common to end up getting different types of rashes, different type of skin conditions that are related to heat and humidity.
Dr. Susan Masick with the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center says the first common skin problem you can prevent is acne. She suggests washing your face with cleanser twice a day in the summer to decrease oil, sweat, and bacteria. Next, folliculitis can be a problem. It's an inflammation of hair follicles and can happen anywhere there's hair on the body. To avoid this problem, shower as soon as possible after sweating and then change into clothing that's breathable like cotton or material that's moisture wicking. Third, sweat from the heat can make skin dehydrated, dry, and irritated, leading to rashes or rough patches. Masick says to avoid this by re-moisturizing the skin after showering. The next summer problem, a condition called melasma, or hyperpigmentation of the skin, usually in sun-exposed areas. It happens mostly in women because pregnancy and birth control play into it. She says daily sunscreen is key to prevention.
If you know you're going to be outdoors for longer periods of time, try to shoot for an SPF of 50 plus.
Finally, heat rash, also called prickly heat, can happen when sweat glands get blocked, causing small bumps on the skin.
A way to avoid it is to avoid perspiration and decrease the sweat. So staying cool and making sure you shower afterwards.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Well, taking you across the nation now to California, where evacuation orders have been lifted after a brush fire on Tuesday. The Bethany fire, which burned 8 to 10 acres, burned near homes on the Burbank hillside. Officials are continuing to monitor the blaze that's now currently contained, and cleanup will continue overnight. All hiking trails in the area remain closed. And in Pennsylvania, cleanup continues after a tornado hit the western area of the state, which destroyed buildings and knocked down trees. The National Weather Service confirming Tuesday that an EF2 tornado struck Noyle Road on Monday. It had wind speeds up to 115 miles per hour, destroying multiple barns on one family's farm. Neighbors and friends stepped in to help with cleanup.
It's a great help. Really is the bright spot of all of this, sense of community. I'm on my way home, and people I didn't even really expect, not the first person I'm calling on my phone, they're hitting me up, hey, is everything okay, like, do you need my help? And I come home and you see hundreds of people here, so it's a good feeling for that, for sure, despite everything that happened.
2 horses were killed, unfortunately, but there were no reports of any other injuries or death. Wes?
In 30 seconds, we continue to talk about those rain chances for the rest of your week and bring you tips on how to check your insurance in the event of a hurricane. We'll see you after the break. All right, well, we have mostly been dry for today. We had a couple isolated showers over in East Alabama. If you're heading down to the coast, you can see a live look right now from Panama City. I was just enjoying the view there. Man, it looks nice there right now. And for folks down along the coast actually catching a break in the wet weather, we're not expecting tropical development within over the next 7 days, but they've been dealing with a lot of scattered storms down along the coast. There's one pocket of rain, a little pop-up that I noticed right over Demopolis. I'm not seeing lightning with this right now, but far southern, here's Lock 5, or southern Hale County and Greene counties, where we had actually had a severe storm that popped up near Forkland yesterday. You can see that just an isolated shower has popped up there. You know, a lot of times, especially in June, July, and August, if you see a storm one day, you'll see a storm develop near that same area the following day, and seems like that's what's going on there. But Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Anniston, points north, looks like a quiet evening. We've got that bright moon coming up again tonight, moonrise at 8:48. But as we talk more, I mentioned the tropics and mentioned down along the Gulf Coast. As we go over to you, Lauren, we're going to be talking more about ways to check insurance, right, when it comes to tropical systems. And, you know, if we just had that aircraft like JP, you know, we could just zip down and enjoy it for a while and take a quick flight back, right?
That would be so nice. Yeah, these cameras down at Panama City Beach are certainly very enticing. Well, that WBRC safety check continues during this Hurricane Preparedness Week as we look at the importance of checking your home insurance. We know just how important home insurance is here in Alabama because severe weather like high winds and heavy rain can affect us year-round. Bob Passmore with the American Property Casualty Insurance Association talked to us about why you need to check your insurance policies and things you should be doing right now to prepare to protect your home.
The most important things people need to do is evaluate their need for flood insurance and also take a look at the coverages they do have to make sure that they're going to be sufficient for their needs, as well as take a look at ways that they can possibly save money by looking at their deductibles and things like that. Even just your standard thunderstorm, you get a lot of high winds and things like that, or trees get hit by lightning and they fall on structures, and that's a significant source of damage. That happens every year. So one thing you can look at is look at your property. Are there, do you have big trees that have limbs over your house? Maybe it's time to trim some of those back.
Bob Passmore says also check for damaged shingles. If they're sticking up, winds can get underneath, causing further damage. Check for loose pieces of siding or loose gutters, and check your garage door. If that gets knocked down, the wind and rains can now get into your garage and home. And I know that all too well. My mom is in Valdosta, Georgia, South Georgia, and they dealt with Hurricane Helene last year, and all of those things he was talking about, she dealt with from Helene. So finally getting some recovery. But of course, a new hurricane season is upon us, right? And so we now have an updated outlook today from our friends at Colorado State University. This is along with the one from NOAA, but this is showing that they are still calling for an above average hurricane season, which may seem strange because things have been pretty quiet lately. On average, in a season, which lasts from June 1st to November 30th, you get 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So you can see they're calling for more than average. I will note, though, it's a little bit less than what we saw last year. And here's one reason why. You'll notice it's very warm in the Gulf and down south in the Caribbean, but right now in the Atlantic, even though the water is warm, it's relatively a little bit cooler than it was this time last year. So we're not expecting ocean temperatures to be as anomalously warm as they were last year. So what do storms need to fuel them? Warm ocean water. So there's going to be some, maybe just not as much as last year. And one thing that's kind of ceasing development right now early on in the season, we've got this high pressure that is very dominant over the Atlantic, and air moves clockwise around that. So we've got Saharan dust that's been flowing off of the African coast, and it's been traveling westward across the Atlantic basin. So this dust, even though we've got warmer air or we've got warmer water in the Gulf and the Caribbean, it's really helping to limit development. We just haven't seen any disturbances being able to develop here. So hopefully things will still be quiet over the next week. Well, don't go anywhere. We talk about those rain chances for your Thursday, plus new research that could mean a shift in Tornado Alley. We'll be right back.
Well, if you missed it last night, you'll have another chance to catch that bright strawberry moon. Full moon of June tonight. A view from Gary Ernest in Springville sharing this photo last night. But the moonrise tonight will be happening at 8:48. So look to the sky there. Will be rising over the horizon, and especially with the moon low on the horizon. Should be a lovely evening out there. The sky should clear out for tonight. But that is the last full moon of the spring that we are seeing. I mentioned a week from Friday. Summertime arrives, and we'll be talking about heat and humidity. It's here and it's locked in, it looks like, for the next several weeks. Highs right now, temperatures are in the 80s, but high temperatures in the short term look to top out in the 80s. We did have an isolated pop-up over Demopolis, but most of us will stay dry tonight. There could be some patchy fog. Megan was tracking some of that. We actually had dense fog advisories to start the day. We'll have to watch out for that again early tomorrow morning. And then by the afternoon, scattered storms will be possible. Those morning low clouds and fog will give way to sunshine. We heat up, and then the storms start to pop. Some of those may stick around throughout the evening hours, so just plan for the possibility of some storm delays. But the one thing you notice here as we go through, not just tomorrow, let's take it on into Friday afternoon. You can see it's not all day rain. And some areas may miss out on the rain. It's just very scattered. Next couple of days, it looks like one of the greatest coverages is that greatest coverage that we see Saturday, perhaps into Sunday. But when it's not raining, we really heat up, and especially before some of that wet weather rolls in, it looks like with the heat humidity combo, that heat index could top 100 in some areas. But for Saturday, for Hueytown City Fest, you look at that forecast, you see higher rain chances. Just know that it's not going to rain this entire time. We'll see even in Clanton those scattered storms, and then once those start to fade away, we'll enjoy some nice breaks into the evening hours. But just plan for the possibility of some showers and storm delays for not just this weekend, but into next week. So we kind of take this setup right on through Father's Day. But you know, if you had to write out a June forecast, this is about as textbook as it gets, especially into next week with those highs approaching 90 degrees for the first day of summer officially. But the 10-day forecast, don't forget you can find that on the First Alert Weather app. We fine-tune that every day, and you'll want to check in frequently and often for updates as we track these scattered storms. Well, sadly today, we learned yesterday the passing of Gary England, and we remember Gary England, a trailblazing meteorologist, just a legend in the business, a famous voice out of Oklahoma. Gary England, he just revolutionized severe weather coverage as he was the first to use commercial Doppler radar to issue tornado warnings to track severe weather to the public in 1981. He was a meteorologist for over 4 decades, also helping to develop the time of arrival warning system for storms and comprehensive weather coverage. When you see us go wall to wall and we're tracking severe weather, he was a pioneer in that. I mean, he was just really an inspiration to all of us. We all looked up to Gary, and certainly thinking about his friends and family, but today we honor him.
Thanks, Wes. Yeah, that's a great tribute to him. Certainly thankful for all of the work he did, because we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing here at the First Alert Weather Team without that pioneering work. One of those being beyond the 7-day. So as we look beyond the 7-day, farther into June, this is looking at 8 to 14 days from now, June 19th through June 25th. So almost taking us towards the end of the month. Shocker, above average temperatures possible across not just here in Alabama, but really much of the U.S. Now, what does that mean? Are we talking like mid 90s or low 90s? We'll have to see. Right now, I'm thinking it would be more in the territory of low 90s, but we've been in this kind of unsettled summer pattern, meaning we have greater rain chances on average than we typically would on a regular summer day when you just get those little pop-up showers and storms. So rain coverage has certainly been greater, and it looks like that trend could still continue as we get further into the month of June. So let's look beyond the 7-day, because the big question is like, all right, they're calling for an above average hurricane season. What gives? Well, sometimes June can be quieter than later in the season. Remember, the peak, that climatological peak, isn't until late August and early September. So this is looking at next Thursday, June 19th. We've been seeing some signs of maybe a disturbance in the Gulf, or at least some tropical moisture that could potentially move northward. Do we have our eyes on a tropical system yet? No, but this, I think, is certainly going to be the area to watch. We mentioned how the water in the Gulf compared to farther out in the Atlantic is much warmer. So we'll keep an eye on things. Otherwise, hey, maybe next weekend we could actually see some lower rain chances. We've been seeing some signs on that. I don't want to bank on it though, so don't get too excited yet. Well, with significant severe weather happening across the country this year, leaving trails of damage and destruction, new research is actually suggesting that Tornado Alley is shifting. Meteorologist Erin Ashley met with researchers to find out why and has the details in this week's Project Planet.
When sirens sound, it is time to get inside. You may have noticed that where tornadoes form more frequently has actually shifted over the last few years. Here's a map of the tornadoes confirmed in 2025 so far. In the white is where most of these tornadoes have happened, including Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee. These areas are east from the typical tornado alley, which is seen in the red, including Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas. Researchers say areas in the white are where the ingredients required for tornadoes are easier to come by. These include humidity, something to lift the storm such as heat, and instability to keep the storm going.
When the atmosphere is in the right setup to bring the ingredients together, it tends to bring them together over perhaps a larger area than we'll see typically in the plains. It's more likely to produce something when the conditions are there.
Dr. Harold Brooks is a senior scientist with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, studying trends in where tornadoes happen. His recent research hints at a shift in the typical tornado alley.
Over the Mid-South region, so sort of Memphis and the surrounding area, there's been an increase in the number of days with tornadoes with about 10% over the last 40 years, and a decrease over the sort of West Texas, the Texas Panhandle, Western Kansas area of a similar magnitude.
Long-term research like that of Dr. Brooks, plus the recent severe weather outbreaks that we've experienced across much of the eastern United States, are reminders that tornadoes can happen often without warning, quickly, and anywhere. I'm meteorologist Erin Ashley, and that's why this is part of Project Planet.
Well, Lauren, looks like a dry evening for most areas.
Yeah, not too bad. Now, it could be a little different by this time tomorrow night.
That's the thing. Next couple of days, we're going to have to keep a close watch on the radar and the weather app. And keep a close watch on us tonight. We'll have updates first at 9.